Hey everybody, welcome to the video. This is phase 5 of the purchase of my brand new Porsche 718 4-litre GTS Cayman. Now, this is the phase 5 video, but it hasn't really gone to plan in the series that I thought that it would do. We reached a point in phase 4, if you've been watching the previous videos, where the car kind of left Germany and arrived in the UK at the port all through the dealer's information and not through the app. So I don't think my phase 4 and phase 5, based on the delays that have been happening with the car and the actual delivery of it and production, have led to the app working the way that it probably should do. Because I think when I've been and seen other people's information in the past, once the car was delivered and it was said delivered in the app, whether you were on phase 4 in the UK or in other parts of the world, I think it's about phase 3 because you only have 4 phases. I can't tell you too much about how phase 5 should have worked, and unfortunately the My Porsche app has dropped the 1 to 5 phases off my account completely now. But I do remember the information. I can pass on the dates to you, and I will tell you what happened on the final delivery leg of my car, from being in the German port to being at Grimsby to turning up with the dealer and when I actually got the car. We'll look at the entire time scale based on months, so that anybody that's currently waiting can kind of see what's happening and really understand the predictability of, you can't really take what the dealer says to your time frame as gospel, because they're not sure either. The factory isn't giving them all the true information. I've sat with the dealer in the showroom while I was taking delivery of my car and heard the conversations that were being had about them looking for people's cars outside the factory. So there are cars being built, they are floating around, and if you are waiting for them at the minute, there is a possibility it is somewhere being built or half built or on its way to a dealer, and it might not be what you're being told. So basically, if you remember from phase 4, my car reached the port in Germany on the 22nd of September. I was told it then arrived in Grimsby on the 23rd. So from Grimsby to the dealer, we weren't sure how long it was going to take, because it all depended on where it came off the boat onto the port and how quickly it got onto a transporter from Grimsby up to where I am in Newcastle. So what happened is my app changed phase 4 on the 22nd of September and told me that the car was finished. I should have probably seen that app change after the 22nd of September to phase 5. Pretty much give me an idea it was on its way, but it didn't. So it had already arrived in Grimsby and was on its way before my phase 5 ever kicked in. Now, that could be the way that it works. I don't know. It might change when it actually hits the dealer and they take delivery of the car, in which case it might have worked exactly the way that it was supposed to. But my car arrived at the dealer on about the 6th of October, the 5th to 6th. I think they actually told me on the 6th that it was there. It then changed my app to say that phase 4 had been completed on the 7th of October, and I lost my production photos completely. And then phase 5 just appeared at the end. So I think something they did once the car was really in their sort of compound meant that it triggered them to move it forward to phase 5. Whether that's how it's supposed to work or not, I'm not sure. If you know any more about that, or you've been through it when it was working properly, feel free to put it in the comments for other people to see, because I get asked a lot of questions about these things, and anybody has the answers to them, feel free to put it on the comments. But my car basically, once it arrived at the dealer, triggered my phase 5. So phase 5 for me was a little bit pointless, because I already knew the car was there, and it actually changed to phase 5 really after I'd already seen the car at the dealer, because I went down to have a look. I tried my best to get there before they took all the stickers off and did everything with it, because I really wanted to see what it looked like when it actually arrived off the trailer. But I was a day late. They'd already PDI'd it. It was sitting outside waiting to be sort of moved on and have its clear ceramic coat and everything put on that I asked for. So I did get to see it just before it got delivered to me, but I didn't get to see it with all the stickers and all the transport stuff on. So it already had its wheel inserts and the wipers and everything on. It was totally PDI'd. So never mind, but I did get to see it just before I got it, and then I had to wait a couple more days. So I eventually took delivery of that car on the 11th of October. I signed for it, it was mine, I drove it from the dealer. So basically, if we look at the entire time frame on this, my original deposit, it went down back end of September in 2021. Delivery 11th of October 2022. So we're looking at about 12 and a half months ish under 13 months for the actual deposit down to me taking the keys and driving it away from the dealer. That's longer than it usually is, but that's the time frame I've ended up on. The actual allocation came through at the end of March in 22, so that entire process meant that it came down to about 6.5 months from allocation to keys being in my hand. After that, if you've watched the rest of the other videos, you will see that basically I had allocation go to production date start, and it moved 3 times before they eventually seemingly actually started to produce the car. Now that car didn't seem to start production until the end of July. So from July to October, you're looking at about 3.5 months for production to me taking the keys. So if you want to put that in a perspective, pre-pandemic, pre-anything else going on in the world, I had a new 992 that I ordered in September of 2019. And I took delivery of that car at the beginning of March 2020. So that was like 5 months. They told me at the time that was a little bit delayed to usual. So, you know, if that was a little bit delayed, then this is very much delayed. We all know why. But this was my timescales on my car. I know that people are waiting for their cars at the moment, especially the 4-litre GTSs. So whatever they're telling you date-wise, be aware that could change. It could turn up early. They're not too sure. You've got part shortages. You've got things missing that they can't add on, which I know they're now telling people you can't even order on the current spec. But there could be a point by the time you get your car built that you're allowed to put that back on because they've got the supply chain back. I don't know. It's all a little bit grey. The dealers don't know. When I was sat with the dealer actually signing for the car, taking the keys, he was chasing other vehicles for other customers, and he was speaking directly to the factory on the phone because he just couldn't get any information off the screen that made any sense. They've got cars built outside the factory apparently. They've got Bose speakers missing. They're being delivered to the dealers. The dealers have actually got them outside the front. My dealer has cars outside the front for customers, but they can't hand them over yet because they're missing some parts that they're going to have to fit themselves once they actually get them delivered. So they've taken delivery of the car, but they can't hand the car over to the customer because it's technically incomplete sitting on their forecourt. So it's all a little bit of a mess, but they are coming through. Things are happening, and I think they are trying to push people's cars forward and get them away from the factory and get the production moving. So don't think that things aren't happening. They are moving. They're just not moving the way that they should be normally, so it seems. But on my car, basically, we can see that it took a year to get it. My one fear was with this whole thing that I basically put my deposit down and ordered my car before the last increase on the prices, which I think was about 3% if memory serves me correctly. I was concerned that by the time my car came, that it would have pushed forward and they would have used that as a way to charge me the higher price. I think I've seen comments from some people saying the face price increases, some people weren't sure. I was never sure. I always kept asking, they kept checking, they said that it wasn't going to go up, but I wasn't convinced because they weren't really being sure themselves when they were saying that. They were just saying it says that it wasn't going to go up, and the finance company was still working on the same figures. But by the end of it, by the time the car turned up, the factory did actually invoice the dealer for the price that I paid for my car. So I got it at the price that I put my deposit down. I don't know how. It's possibly because of the spec of my car. It's very limited spec on it. I don't know. Maybe it's I got it in before a certain time, and because I got my allocation back in March, I don't know if that made any difference, but that's where I am. My car didn't change price. The other thing that happened to me was that the finance, VW Finance, had lifted the residual values on the car. So when it came to the finance, the final payments at the end had been adjusted. Now that actually worked in my favor a little bit because they brought the price up against what my finance was sort of figured out at back in about May. And I thought I was going to have to put so much down to hit a monthly figure. It turns out because they've raised those final prices at the end, the money in and the loan across the front end of the agreement over the 3 years is less because I don't have to pay as much of it up front because the final payment's a bit higher. So that worked in my favor as well. I'll go over that in a different video at some point because it's going to be a bit of number crunching, but that's what happened to me. That's what's happened with the car. I do have it now. It's been a couple of weeks. I've been getting it running a little bit, getting a few miles on it, but and now I'm familiar with it. I've got back familiar with the 718 over the 992 because I had one previously, and hopefully I'm going to be able to start bringing some content based on the car, and let's see if we can get some good videos out of it.